Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another I Finally Watched. Today we're going back to 1958 to Poland and Andrzej Wajda's Ashes and Diamonds, one of the Polish classics. Now I'm sure I've seen the first 10 minutes of this probably 2 or 3 times. I can't remember whether I've actually seen the whole film before, but this was certainly pretty sure this is the first time I've seen the whole film. And this is one of those films that's absolutely wonderful, but it's one of those films, if I gave half stars out of 5, it would be 4.5, because it's not quite a 5, and it's almost frustrating that it's not even better than a 4.5, because it really should be. And I'll explain myself by, this has some of the greatest black and white imagery you'll ever see. It's almost like those Kalatazov films, you know, Letter Never Sent, and the cranes are flying, and I Am Cuba, some of those just amazing visuals. You know, there's a wonderful scene involving a white horse, white sheets, the opening, which is kind of pretty much the only action scene in the film. If you're expecting a World War II actioner, then Ashes and Diamonds isn't that film. It opens with 2 men, including the superstar of the film, Zbigniew Cybulski, with his rock star sunglasses, or dark glasses, which is a fairly iconic image. I mean, we do find out the reason why he wears those dark glasses, but it's a fairly iconic image. They're waiting near a little, was it a little chapel or something, a little shrine almost, and they're waiting to kill another 2 men. This is all at the end of the Second World War. Obviously Poland was the first country to be invaded by Germany, and the film is really about all the different factions trying to line up to seize power in post-war Poland, whether it's the communists, whether it's the rebels, whether it's the remnants of collaborators. So it's a very fractured society, and we see it in the ground with Cybulski and his superior, and also we see it from the mayor of the town and the kind of politicians, middle management, as everybody's trying to kind of figure out what they're going to do now that the war is over. But because, you know, just because the war's over doesn't mean the bloodshed's over. So it's an absolute tour de force opening scene. You get the almost kind of high noon, Once Upon a Time in the West, kind of 2 guys lying in the grass in the sun, quite idyllic, but they're waiting to kill a couple of people. And when the two men do turn up, we find out it's actually the wrong two men that they killed. So the rest of the film is them hanging out in the town, waiting for orders, reporting to superiors, and then Cebulski starts having second thoughts. He gets involved with a local barmaid, and he questions whether he wants to keep on killing. So it's more a meditation on that than a full out, World War II action film, as some people might expect. This is part of Lach's kind of war trilogy. I think Canal and A New Generation might be the other two, but I could be wrong. I'm sure I'll be corrected in the comments. But the thing is, it just has that frustration for me of it's almost a masterpiece for me, but just not quite. And I'm almost more frustrated with myself than the film. Again, it just has these amazing images. The scene with the white horse, for example, is just like so poetic. Cebulski's character is just kind of telling the barmaid that he's got to leave the town, and he kind of embraces her and covers her with big smoochies, and she kind of runs off back into the bar, and then out of nowhere a white horse just kind of trots into the frame, and there's just something amazingly poetic about it. And at the end of the film, when Cebulski's running from the authorities, again there's tremendous moments of poetry, and there's just wonderful images throughout. So I mean, if you took off the subtitles and watched it without sound, it is just a smorgasbord of these just beautiful images, but there's just something that it doesn't quite hit that masterpiece level for me. Again, it's not as if it's like over long. It's 103 minutes. Yeah, you could knock 5 minutes off it, but it is just so good in kind of these beautiful little bursts. There's a wonderful scene where Cebulski's character, Maciek, won't be his name obviously, or Masik, is like talking to the guy at the front desk of the hotel that they're staying in, which happens to be right next to their target. And he's just talking about the old days in Warsaw and, the bars and restaurants, and it's just a wonderful kind of little scene between the two men. And there's just kind of wonderful little scenes throughout the film. I don't know whether it's more when it kind of focuses on the mayor and people shuffling to kind of get into the post-war pecking order, that perhaps it kind of loses its way a little bit and it focuses too much on them rather than the boots on the ground. But I don't know what it is. I'm obviously going to have to watch it again, because you kind of never judge a film on your first viewing. But I found it absolutely wonderful, but again a little frustrating, and again that might be on my part and part on the film as well, because it should have been an absolute 5-star, one of my favourite films of all time, but it's not quite. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and again, this is just my opinion, it's not fact, as we've established during lots of scientific experiments. This has a 2K restoration, and it also has an interview with Vaja talking about the film. I believe this is on Criterion as well. I could be wrong, but I think Criterion have got this trilogy. I'm not sure it's on Blu-ray or whether it's just on DVD, but I'm sure Criterion have got the trilogy. Yeah, so finally got around to watching it, even though, as I said, I'm sure I've seen the first 10 minutes a few times, it seems. It's probably on lots of documentaries about polycinema. And obviously, Cybulski's character, with also the rock and roll sunglasses, does kind of represent the future of Poland. Obviously, it's made in the cusp of the 60s, even though it's set in 1945. So there's so much to like about the film. But yeah, please let me know what you think of Ashes and Diamonds. Am I just talking nonsense as usual? And of course, this is on Arrow Academy, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. But that's kind of the gap that Radiance have picked up on. Yeah, this has some stunning cinematography. It's one of those films that deserves, as if a film deserves a 4K. Let's be honest, 4K is a kind of luxury, but Ashes and Diamonds, a 4K would look pretty fantastic. There's a scene, if you look at the thumbnail in the video, that scene where the two characters are just going for a walk and a chat, but there's an upside down statue. It's just, the framing and composition in that's just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, Ashes and Diamonds, absolutely wonderful, even though I've got a nagging feeling it should have been even better, but that's just me. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know, as I said, what you think of Ashes and Diamonds, and hopefully you'll join me again for more I finally watched videos. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.